And Jesus in this situation stayed whole and connected and present and unreactive the entire time. How did he do that? And how might we do that? With all that anxiety flying around, how did he stay whole and connected? How did he keep his own peace in that situation? Let's look at the ways together. While we don't see it here, one of the things we know about Jesus is that he knows who he is to God. We see this throughout the Gospels. He knows who he is to God. And our first step to holding on to our own peace is knowing who we are to God. Jesus knows he is loved, he is cared for, and he is not alone. Anxiety likes to lie to us and tell us that we are on our own. It is up to us to protect ourselves and to protect everyone we love. And while that may be a good survival instinct, it does sometimes lie to us. We are not alone if God is with us, which he is all the time. We don't need to prove ourselves to others if God says that we're enough. We don't need to be ruled by our insecurities when we are secure in the loving hands of God. And in this situation, Jesus knows that his wholeness, his peace, is not determined by what he can prove to these people or who he can rescue. So he doesn't take the bait. He doesn't take the bait. He doesn't give in to the temptation to react, to get bigger, to dominate, to shrink and fade away. He chooses to be what we called a few weeks back self-responsible. He doesn't have to correct all of their behavior or point out the error in their ways, and there was plenty to point out, perhaps in the woman's life, certainly in the religious leaders and how they were operating, but he didn't feel the need to correct everything that they did. He doesn't have to be afraid of their judgment or what the crowd will think of him. He stays disciplined to what is his to do. He doesn't get sucked into their trap or step into a role that isn't his. He doesn't need their approval or affirmation to stay whole. He is enough on his own, and he knows it. And as a result, he is not seeking approval, power, or a win. He doesn't need to add these things to his life, his reputation, or his trophy case in order to feel whole. This is how he stays a non-anxious, peaceful presence in the middle of the tension and the free-flowing anxiety. He knows who he is. He knows that no amount of their approval or condemnation will change that. He knows that he is enough as he is for loving well, for being loved and loving others. And we can stay connected to our wholeness, our own peace. We can pause before being reactive when we know who we are, when we know who we belong to. We don't have to take the bait because nobody's approval or condemnation changes who we are, who we belong to, or the fact that who God made you to be is enough for being loved well and loving others well. And Jesus did love well. I missed this one in the notes, that's on me, but I think it's so important to pay attention to the fact that he has a genuine love for all involved. We talked last week about how genuine love leads to a genuine peace. And Jesus had a genuine love for all involved. He protects the weakest, the meekest, the most vulnerable in this situation as he does and as he calls us to do. He loves this woman too much, though, to ignore the choices born out of her pain or her lack of wholeness. And even in protecting her, he does not allow his love for the religious leaders, for the crowd, for all involved to disappear. He loves everybody in this situation, genuinely and fully. There's no need to make up a story or drama, trauma or excuses. Just love genuinely. He just loves genuinely, and he sticks to what he knows to be true. Jesus is fully committed to true stories. He's committed to true stories. We talked a few weeks ago about how we actually experience our emotional reactions starting with our body, and then it goes into our brain, and then our brains fixate on some object or image or detail of what we're experiencing, and then we tell ourselves a story based on all of that. And it is actually that story that we are responding to. And that's why it is so important that we pay attention to whether the stories we believe are true or false. That we have to be committed to true stories. So, in this story that Jesus found himself in, what's true of this situation? Is the woman actually in danger? Maybe, yeah, probably. Is Jesus actually in danger? Not really. And he knows it. He knows who he is, who he belongs to, what his story will be, and he knows that this is not a situation where he's in danger. This interaction is not going to change any of that. Are the religious leaders being just, or are they being underhanded? Well, they're being underhanded, and Jesus knows that too. Their words may be telling a story that is true. And if that was their focus, maybe their intentions would be just. But Jesus knows that the true words are covering up a motivation built on lies, and he is just not going to have it. He is committed to genuine love based in true stories that leads to wholeness. So, how about you? What keeps you tethered to what's true? What lies does anxiety tell you? Whose approval feels like it would make or break you? When your comfort zone is calling, when it feels like it would be so much easier to simply keep the peace than try to make it, what will keep you moving toward wholeness? What's going to keep you moving toward wholeness? Peace is so much more than simply an absence of conflict. Peace really is the presence of Jesus. In our interactions, in our hearts and minds, in our stories. Because when Jesus shows up, he shows up in all of his wholeness, in his sense of peace, in his confidence in who he is and in who you are, and who he has made you to be, and in your security in the love of the Father, just as secure as he is. What keeps you tethered to that truth, to that true story? What keeps you moving toward wholeness in your life, in your decisions, in your relationships? What keeps you aware of and connected to the presence of Jesus, the one who is peace in your life, with you in all of these situations? Because he really is the Prince of Peace, and he really is with you.